Buying a GPU or not in September is going to be really complicated, but don't worry, I can help you out with a lot of information. There's probably going to be an announcement at the end of this month of the next generation of RTX 4000 GPUs, which could have a huge impact on GPU pricing. And we're also expecting the merge on Ethereum, crypto mining, all that kind of stuff going to proof of stake, which could mean a huge impact to the used market with a bunch of GPUs being sold off. But before we dive into those details, a word from its sponsor. A huge thank you to today's sponsor, FlexiSpot, because this is my wife's desk. She got a new classroom, new teaching job this year, and this is the desk and computer setup they gave her. She came home complaining. I was like, okay, we can definitely improve that. And FlexiSpot reached out to me with an offer to take a look at their desks. My wife picked out the FlexiSpot EC5 standing desk. It's the 55 by 28 with a white frame and bamboo curved desktop, but you can customize your desk with your preferred color and size of the desktop desk and frame. Now, this is especially cool because there's going to be a deal from September 7th through 12th where you can get up to $100 off on one of their desks. So I would highly recommend this because I've got to say, the whole thing feels super high quality. The raising and lowering is incredibly smooth. The desk feels sturdy at any of these heights. And just overall, my wife's really happy that she can come in there and use it at the standing height. But if she has a little time to sit down and eat lunch, she can pull up a chair and lower it. And just overall, the whole thing is just a massive improvement. So once again, just huge thank you to FlexiSpot. And I highly recommend you guys check out the link in the description or the pinned comment to look for that $100 off on September 7th through 12th on your own FlexiSpot standing desk. Okay, so are the new GPUs really coming out that soon? Well, we have word officially from Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, that we should hear more about it. Talking about the new GPU architecture, he says specifically, quote, "We'll get through this over the next few months and go into next year with our new architecture. I look forward to telling you more about it at GTC next month." Now, next month, he said this back in August. And GTC, if I slide myself out of the way here, we see that the GTC 2022 keynote is scheduled for Tuesday, September 20th from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Is that? Anyway, the primary topic is AI strategy for business leaders. But in general, it says that he talks about the future of computing. So notice it doesn't specifically say this is a big reveal event for the upcoming RTX 4000 GPUs, so it's unclear how much we will hear. But I'd imagine, given what he said, that there will be some sort of an unveiling at this time. Now, when will we actually get new GPUs? I think even the earliest rumors aren't expecting until later into October, and that we'd probably be seeing the high-end GPUs first, like the RTX 4090. Again, without any official information, I can't tell you exactly what the price and performance for these will be, but over at WCCF Tech, they have tracked all of the various leaked TimeSpy Extreme scores that have come out over the past couple of months of the new GPUs and then put them relative to TimeSpy Extreme scores from current generations of GPUs, so you get a rough idea of what to expect. The RTX 4090 looks like it's going to be absolutely insanely powerful, significantly more powerful than even an RTX 3090 Ti. However, again, keep in mind this is leaks and rumors, and then even if this is true, I would imagine that the 4090 is going to come with a huge price tag. Would not surprise me to see it as high as $1,400 or $1,500. It even wouldn't shock me to see it around $2,000, although I wouldn't necessarily expect that as its MSRP. But if this is the first and only GPU to launch, with the 4000 series, at least at first, then I would expect enthusiasts to buy it out, scalpers to buy it out, try to resell them on eBay, and prices to stay extremely high. We're not really expecting to see the 4080 until probably at least a month after the 4090, and the earliest we'd probably see the 4090 would be October. So the 4080, I would say the soonest we might see it is November, but again, this is all still based on various leaks and rumors. Now, the 4080 will still be a healthy percentage jump over cards like the 3090 Ti. So if you're looking for the absolute highest end performance, especially if we're talking 4K gaming, especially if you're trying to have ray tracing enabled at 4K, that kind of thing, waiting for something like the 4080 or the 4090 may be worthwhile if your budget's going to be that high. Now, the 4070 would be our card that we'd more likely expect a lot of people to be able to afford. Initial rumors put its launch around December, where we'd see a October, November, December release date for our 90, 80, and 70, although that has not been updated for a long time, and it's possible that Nvidia could hold out if they're still trying to clear their RTX 3000 cards. Now, assuming we did see this around December, I still wouldn't expect much availability of it, especially at its list pricing for even a few months after that. So even if it launched at $500, but it wouldn't surprise me to see MSRP creep up to $550 or even $600 for the 70 class. Like I said, having actual good availability of that could wait a few months into 2023. And this is going to influence what the kind of pricing that I think would be reasonable to pay as you see prices drop on cards like maybe the RTX 3090. Because if we say that the 4070 is going to be somewhere performance-wise between a 3080 Ti and a 3090, somewhere around there, again, this is just leaks and rumors, so we don't know for sure, then that would mean that if you'd want to buy a 3090 or 3080 Ti class card right now, based on next-gen pricing, you could probably get that level of performance for something like $500 to $600 somewhere in the beginning of 2023, unless anything crazy happens to the GPU market like it did last time. So that can influence the type of performance we're expected to see. Now, the lower level cards, like the 60s, 50s, things like that, will probably not be coming out until much later into 2023. And again, even if they get announced and launched, it could be a while for good availability. So that's going to bring me to the cards that I actually recommend buying right now. And please don't buy an RTX 3050. What I'm getting at here, though, is the lower end and mid-range GPUs of the current generation are probably going to take longer to be replaced, meaning that you're not going to instantly see hundreds of dollars lost on your GPU's value if you buy them right now. But the RTX 3000 cards are still extremely overpriced, especially cards like the RTX 3050, where we see the cheapest models coming in at or above $300. And I think that if you have to have an Nvidia GPU at the low end, the RTX 2060, while it does have 2 less gigabytes of VRAM and is less energy efficient, you can get them for anywhere from $230 to $250 right now. And they're actually faster than an RTX 3050 in most situations. So given its more performance for significantly less money, and it's still NVIDIA, so you still get access to things like DLSS, you do get some ray tracing, although at this performance tier, both the 2060 and the 3050, I wouldn't really be sold on ray tracing as a major selling point because you'd be more likely to be turning down settings rather than increasing things with optional features like ray tracing. But anyway, however, if you're willing to go with AMD, the RX 6600 also comes in at a similar pricing to that RTX 2060 at around $240 to $250, but performs even better than that RTX 2060. So you're not going to get things like DLSS, but you do get FSR, and with FSR 2.0 out now, the upscaling features do look better here, although I will say that, than they did when we had 1.0. But I will say that at 1080p, I'd personally prefer not to be trying to upscale much at all, and the 6600's better raw performance without ray tracing enabled. But again, ray tracing at this at this performance tier I'm not really sold on, means that unless you're scared off by AMD's driver reputation, things like that, I really do think for gamers the RX 6600 makes a lot of sense, but I understand that there are people with productivity workloads where certain programs are just designed to run better with Nvidia, and also some people are worried about live streaming, and Nvidia does have an encoder that looks a little bit better at low bit rates for live streaming. Now, if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, I actually think the best deal right now, while I said last month you could go up to the 6600 XT for $300, I've actually noticed very recently that the 6650 XT, which is slightly faster than the 6600 XT, this is a few percent gain, it's got a little bit faster memory, a little bit higher clocks from this refresh, is coming in with its cheapest model at $299.99, again matching the price of the RTX 3050, but actually beating the rasterized performance of an RTX 3060. So again, if you're willing to go the AMD route, I really think that this 6650 XT makes a whole lot of sense. And once you go past this price point, I think the idea that you might suddenly lose a lot of value very soon with the new GPUs coming out means that anything past this point, I think you just have to accept the fact that you will be losing money in order to get something now rather than later. Now, that could still make sense for people. I will mention again that the RTX 3060 has had some price drops recently. You used to not be able to get it very easily below $400. There are a few models at $370 right now, but they're single fan cooler models, and you'd be paying more like $380 if you want a 2 or 3 fan cooler. So just pointing that out on those cheapest models here. But again, the RTX 3060, you're paying an extra $70 over the $300 6650 XT, and that 6650 XT will, other than in ray tracing, outperform it. So if you do need Nvidia, or you're doing any kind of creative workload where maybe the 12 gigabytes is something that you like, I guess there could be reasons to go that route. And unfortunately, the 3060 Ti, which would make a great kind of entry into some pretty solid 1440p gaming. You're not maxing everything out at its maximum settings. At its MSRP of $400 would be fairly reasonable still at this point, although I will say that it's still hard to find at that price point. You can get it when Best Buy gets new inventory on the Founders Editions. They have been available at $400, and that happens on some Thursday mornings, but not always. It's not super consistent, so you could take a look out for that. If you're willing to go with AMD, the 6700 non-XT is available for around $370, and the XT version, which is, again, a little bit faster, is available at a little over $400. And I don't have a 6700 non-XT to show you performance, but I do know that the 6700 XT is generally pretty comparable to the 3060 Ti. When ray tracing isn't enabled, it's often even a little bit faster. And again, I think does make a good 1440p GPU. But again, as we're getting towards this next generation, expecting games to get more demanding, things like that, you might want to start thinking, like I said, about either just buying one of those cheaper GPUs as a placeholder, or if you're at 1080p or playing less demanding games, cards like that 6650 XT really will be more than just a placeholder. They're really quite good. Now, as we go past this point, I really think the diminishing returns start to be, well, really diminishing returns. Because again, the 6700 XT can get you some reasonable 1440p gaming for around $400, and the 3060 Ti can if you either pay a little bit more or, like I said, get that Founders Edition. But if you're trying to go up to the RTX 3070, it's still pretty hard to get them at around their MSRP. I have seen some models coming in at that $500 price point. But a lot of times they're still over their MSRP of $500, and the performance jump you get from a 3070 over that $400 6700 XT or even the 3060 Ti isn't massive. So value-wise, when we think about that this mid $500 price range might have a 4070 coming in towards the end of the year, just delivering massively better performance, it does become a bit of a hard sell. But some people want to have something now, and if that's the case, well, the 3070 is still pretty overpriced in my opinion. The 3070 Ti is finally available slightly below its MSRP, but its MSRP was a terrible deal already at $600. If you're looking in this price range and you're willing to consider AMD, you can get a 6800 for around $560, and I recently did a comparison between the 3070, 6800, and 3070 Ti, and the 6800 is generally faster than even the 3070 Ti if we're not that into ray tracing. At 1440p, you know, the ray tracing for the 3070 and 3070 Ti, some lighter ray tracing workloads can do well with DLSS, but really, at this price point, you can get a 6800 XT, which is even significantly faster than our RX 6800 non-XT, for $600, so about the same price as that 3070 Ti. And I've got to say, if you look at the 6800 XT versus the 3070 Ti, I would have to go with that 6800 XT if you're not completely scared off of getting an AMD GPU, because the amount of performance you're getting at that price is pretty crazy. Now, again, though, at this price point, we could be seeing significantly more performance in the next few months, so you just have to be willing to accept the value loss there. But, you know, for some people that is worth it. You want to have something now, not several months from now, and it could be worth it to you. And if you're planning on like 1440p gaming without ray tracing, the 6800 XT is going to do a fantastic job for a long time. Now, if you want to get ray tracing enabled here at 1440p, I really do think that performance along the lines of an RTX 3080, especially the 12 gigabyte model or up, does make a lot more sense as a ray tracing GPU, even compared to something like the 3070 Ti. And we can see that right now the 10 gigabyte models don't make a lot of sense, because the 12 gigabyte models are slightly faster and have that extra VRAM, which can be useful, especially when enabling things like ray tracing, which do eat up even more VRAM. So the 12 gigabyte models, I think, are the sweet spot for this level of performance, you know, 1440p ray tracing, that kind of thing, if you need to get one. However, I will mention that 3080 Ti's have finally started crashing in pricing, and you can start to get them for only a small-ish, you know, at this price point, you know, $50 to $60 isn't quite as impactful, but, you know, still matters. You can start getting the 3080 Ti's somewhere in a similar ballpark to your other 3080 models. And performance-wise, though, I mean, it's not mind-blowing. If we go to a relative performance chart and we look at the 3080 10 gigabyte and then the 3080 Ti, it's, you know, on average, you know, 12% lead. It really depends on the game, the exact workload. Move my head out of the way here. But it's not mind-blowing. And the 3080 12 gigabyte kind of splits that difference, sort of. So, you know, I'm still not sure I'd go up to that 3080 Ti, but at least the prices come down to the point where I'm not going to tell you you're wrong if you would like to do that. Now, the 3090s have also crashed in pricing recently to be consistently available with some models below $1,000, but I don't think that the price jump from that like 3080 12 gigabyte up to the 3090 for gaming makes a lot of sense. I think the 24 gigabytes of VRAM really matter more for certain professional workloads. So if you need your GPU for something where massive VRAM buffer makes a lot of sense, I think the 3090 is starting to make a little bit more sense. Because keep in mind that while a 4070 might match the 3090's gaming performance, maybe if the rumors are true, it's not going to come with 24 gigabytes of VRAM, which could matter in a professional use case quite a bit. So keep that in mind, although I will say that as the cards like the 4070 come out, or at least get announced. If it gets announced with similar performance to the 3090, I would imagine the used market pricing, especially on the 3090s, will come down, although my video is really focusing more on the new market. So I will say that if you hold out, I would expect the 3090 pricing to come down even further. And the 3090 Ti, I still think is considerably overpriced, with $1,150 to $1,200 being some of our cheapest options. And its gaming performance over cards like the 3080 12GB or 3080 Ti, I just don't see being worth that massive price jump. A lot of benchmarks have it within 10% of the performance of a 3080 Ti for significantly more cost and power draw, so does not get my recommendation here. I will mention the 6900 from AMD is coming in at around $700 now. And rasterized performance-wise, that's going to be a great competitor to those upper tier like 3080 Ti's and things like that, unless you want ray tracing. But the thing is, if you're not that into the ray tracing performance, I think the 6800 XT gets close enough in performance to the 6900 XT that saving $100 on the 6800 XT might make sense. I'd like to see the 6900 come even closer in pricing to it. And if you're thinking about AMD's top model of the 6950 XT, I still think its pricing is completely out of line from the 6800 XT and 6900 XT, so I don't think that makes sense right now either. So what's the overall summary of the video? If you're really concerned about value, not losing a whole bunch of value in the next few months, but maybe you're buying 1080p, something like that, I think getting a card like the 6650 XT makes the most sense. Although, like I said, if you want to go Nvidia, I think going down to like an RTX 2060 to save you even more money and be a decent 1080p GPU makes a lot of sense. A card like the 6650 XT is actually a reasonable 1440p GPU if you understand that you're not going to be maxing out the latest games or anything like that at high frame rates. But in older or less demanding titles, it's going to be a great performer even at 1440p. And then, like I said, if you want to go past this point, it really is diminishing returns, but we talked through all those details earlier in the video, and I don't need to rehash it. I hope all of you have an excellent day.